What's up, guys? Nischal Tube here, and today you're listening to something different. You're listening to Mindspace, the very first episode of the official Nischal Tube Podcast, with daily knowledge sharing. In today's episode, we're going to be addressing a global concern: hunger and malnutrition. So recently, the United Nations released a report titled The State of Food Security and Nutrition in the World 2020. Ideally, this report is designated to give a ranking of countries based on their levels of malnutrition, their levels of hunger, etc. And the country India has nearly 189.2 million people who are malnourished. And yes, although this has declined by 60 million in the past decade, this is indicating slow progress and potentially the inability to reach the 2025 global nutrition targets set up by the World Health Organization. The global nutrition targets aim to set up an institutionalized system for countries to hit these goals that are related to nutrition and nourishment. So, the goals are as follows. Number 1, reducing stunting by nearly 50%. So, what is stunting, you may ask? In the growing age of childhood, there's a specific height that a child needs to reach by the time they attain a certain age. And if they do not reach this height, this would be known as stunting. So, what causes stunting? Well, you might have already guessed: malnourishment, lack of nourishing food, and lack of a clean ecosystem, so they might be afflicted with diseases, etc. Next, decreasing low birth weight by 30%. So this is related to maternal health, and if maternal health is improved, the birth of the newborns would automatically increase. And ideally, the initial weight of a child when he or she is first born would determine how they would grow, because this would already determine their physical environment and their employment status. Maternal health is determined by consumption of nourishing food, and the outcome of this good maternal health would be, of course, children that are high in weight. So the first goal was to decrease stunting, and the second goal was to decrease low birth weight, so also increasing the birth weight in a way. Next is lowering the percentage of maternal mothers afflicted with anemia, which is a lack of red blood cells, which would not circulate oxygen throughout the body, so this would lead to a pale skin color with no redness at all in the skin. The next goals are to reduce wasting and maintain it below 5%. And wasting, if stunting is related to height, then wasting is related to weight. So there's also a certain weight that a child must attain when they reach a certain age. And if they do not attain this weight at a certain age, they would be considered as wasted. So you're wasting human potential at this point, which is why the name is given like that. So, these are some of the global nutrition targets set up by the World Health Organization. But according to India's current progress, it might be difficult to achieve these goals in the next 5 years. Alright? So what can the Indian government do? Well, there's really two solutions to this. The first solution is taking the policy-making route. And despite the creation of several policies like the National Rural Health Mission, the Midday Meal Scheme, the Integrated Child Development Services, these schemes are individual schemes, and they're losing efficiency because they have the same target, but many different schemes, which is creating a financial burden as well. So this new scheme, the nutrition scheme of 2018, Poshan Abhiyan, is intended to integrate all of these schemes: the National Rural Health Mission, the Midday Meal Scheme, the Integrated Child Development Services Scheme, Sarva Siksha Abhiyan, It's integrating all these different schemes and mainstreaming it to assist maternal mothers, infant mothers of young children, and of course children under the age of 5, because from 0 to 5 determines whether a child will have the ability to live the rest of his or her life. If they're not getting the proper nutrition intake until the age of 5, then their outcome is pretty uncertain if they'll be able to live. Because growing age requires even more nutrition, and if the parents cannot even provide the proper nutrition intake from when they're 0 to 5, chances are that they might not provide it for when they grow older. So when you're looking at child development services programs in terms of malnourishment or stunting or wasting, then it's usually the targeted age group is usually 0 to 5. So keep that in mind. So anyways, this Poshan Abhiyan scheme is intended to integrate all of these different schemes that have been created for rural development in terms of healthcare, education, and standard of living. It's integrating all of these into one single scheme known as the nutrition scheme. So providing affordable, quality healthcare. Okay, providing the right nutrition intakes for maternal mothers and young children. These are all significant steps towards achieving a greater human resource and greater society as a whole. So this is one route of solving this problem and improving our progress and speeding our progress, if you will. The next route is through innovation, scientific innovation. So it's actually possible to instill micronutrients into children through a process known as food fortification. So food fortification is a scientific breakthrough, really. You're really adding nutrients and increasing the nutrient levels of certain food items such as salt, rice, and wheat flour, and you're increasing the nutrition levels. So while availability of food might be a challenge in some developing countries, the implementation of this food fortification program would do a much greater cause by increasing the nutrition level for the same quantity of food. So less quantity, but even greater nutritional value. So this would most definitely solve undernourishment, malnourishment, stunting, and wasting. Because in countries like India itself, production and availability of food is a difficulty due to the extremely large population of nearly 1.33 billion. So what if we found an efficient way to consume the same amount of food, but perhaps this much of rice flour would have the nutritional value of a much larger amount? So food fortification would not only be solving the never-ending problem of the lack of production to meet the demand, lack of supply to meet the demand, and inflation, and it will also solve the problem of malnutrition. So you can either take the policy-making route or the innovation route. And in between lies the most important key component, and that is awareness. Creating awareness of nutrition intake and just the importance of maintaining a nutritious diet. In urban areas, yes, there has been a lot of awareness created through various different campaigns. But if we break it down, really there's two separate problems for urban areas and rural areas. Most of the urban areas are actually suffering from obesity. So if you look at the obesity statistics in India, it's nearly the number of obese people has increased from 29 million to nearly 34 million in just the past from 2012 to 2016, 4 years. It's increasing by 9 million people, 25 million to 34 million people that are obese. So this is a growing problem in urban areas, and despite several campaign awareness programs, people tend to move towards sugary treats, sugary confectionery, and sedentary lifestyles. They don't move around, which eventually leads to high blood pressure and several different ailments. Whereas in rural areas, it's quite the contrary. People would love to eat lots of food, but due to the lack of it, they're just unable to. It just shows the large social divide between urban areas and rural areas, and it also justifies the reason for growing urbanization and growing migration towards urban areas. So, that being said, let's move on back to campaign awareness. Spreading the message to the public on good nutrition and good values, and good diet, that is significant, because people will at least have awareness, and they'll know that yes, we have to provide our children and even ourselves with the right food. And in urban areas, it should really hit these urban population in the head, saying that really we have all these different diverse food groups available as compared to the rural areas that don't even have such a variety of foods. So we should be seizing this opportunity to maintain healthy, nutritious lifestyles. But as of now, that's not happening, but hopefully it will soon. So, to conclude, malnutrition and stunting and wasting and all these different issues related to nutrition are not only affecting the individual, but it also affects the economy, because this is perfectly good human resource being wasted. And in the next 50 years, if India or any other developing country really wants to transition from a developing country to a developed country, or to become even a superpower, an economic superpower, then these small problems have to be solved. Because in the end of the day, if you want economic development and economic growth, which are both interrelated, then it's required to improve the health standards, the standard of living and education of these people. And these targeted schemes that, these schemes that are actually targeting towards improving the standard of living of people by giving them different resources, such as everyone has to have at least one fan, one TV, one mode of transport. They shouldn't have floors made of dirt. And these different standards improve the standard of living. And for health, this National Rural Health Mission and this Poshan Abhiyan, improving the nutrition, lowering malnutrition rates, decreasing the infant mortality rates and maternal mortality rates. These are all significant steps towards achieving good health too. And finally, education, providing quality education that's affordable, accessible to all areas and to all children. And if investment is made in all of these areas, then the economy will most definitely develop and grow. So in the long run, if India or any other country aims at increasing their economic growth, then these steps are absolutely mandatory. So in the end of the day, good nutrition is essential for improving the human resource, and it really drives the path for sustainable economic growth. That concludes the first episode of Mindspace, the Nischal Tube Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this new sort of platform to share my knowledge with you, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, or any topics for tomorrow's episode, feel free to leave them in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for listening, and until the next episode, this is Nischal Tube signing off. Peace.